This is a HeadGum podcast.
That's okay, folks. It's We'll See You in Hell. I'm going to toss it to Patty Walsh for the intro.
Hello, everybody. It's Patrick Walsh. It's a Saturday night about 9:40 p.m. to give you an idea of how stacked the social calendars of myself and Joe DeRosa are.
Mm-hmm.
Sitting in his apartment recording a podcast Saturday night, Los Angeles.
Yeah.
You know, Elton John sang it best. Saturday night's all right for podding. You remember that song?
Yeah. I also remember a tune called Saturday Night is the Loneliest Night of the Week by one Mr. Frank Sinatra.
Yeah.
And I'd say, this Saturday ain't so lonely because I got you, babe, which was said by Sonny and Cher.
I got you, babe. That's right. Folks, this little walk down musical memory lane. This is We'll See You in Hell. It's a horror movie podcast. We discuss one horror or sci-fi movie picture a week, and it goes off on tangents and screaming matches and things of that nature. Without any further fanfare, on with the show, and on with the Joe!
That was a good one.
Thank you.
If you could see the glass look in his eyes as he says it.
Yeah, I got nothing in the tank, folks.
Yeah. It almost looked like a Madame Tussauds thing had come to life and yelled at. And you know.
I was up at 6 a.m. today. Fell asleep last night about 3.
The hell were you up at 6 for?
I went to an all-day seminar at the Writers Guild of America.
Oh, God. Why do you do it to yourself? You work harder than anybody I know, and then in your free time, you're like, I'm doing a paprika juice cleanse, and I gotta go to this class where they teach you how to use periods in a new way. I'm like, what are you doing? Just take a day off.
Well, I was told that if you go to this seminar, it keeps them from like trying to put additional people on your back for the production of the show. So I'm working on this pilot. I'm taking notes from 25 different people. I don't need another person in the mix. So I went. I send them my receipt of having gone. I did fucking learn a lot. It was a great course. But I'll tell you, Joe, and you wouldn't have lasted 5 minutes with this woman. The guy who spoke was amazing. He had 40 years of credits. He had amazing stories. He was just perfect. I learned so much. And after every single point that he made, every time he stopped speaking, every period of a sentence, the woman in front of me would go, "Mm."
Oh God, you can't. You can't have that.
Mm-hmm.
So it was almost like she was almost something like a black church response.
Yeah, except she was nowhere near that cool.
Yeah.
And like at first. Well, I can call him out. Andrew Orvidal?
No, but I did know Gore Vidal very well.
Well,
and
he's a very funny comedy guy. He's on Those Who Can't on True TV. I'm going to shout out that show.
Oh, I like Those Who Can't. Is he the guy with the beard? Is he the main guy? No, he's not the main guy. Is he the main guy?
Yeah, they're all main guys.
I think I know all of them, and I think any one of them would be offended right now that I said I didn't know who you were talking about.
No, they're all main guys.
Yeah, they're good. They're good men. I like all of them.
He's in comedy. It's a funny show. I want to give him a shout-out because we had a great time together today. We just kind of sat together like kids in church and kept looking at each other whenever this woman would go,
Okay.
And people are kind of looking over, but nobody really called her out or laughed. And then she was also in a writing partnership. And when she would say, then her friend, her writing partner, would turn to her and nod. Like, we've been there.
By the way, for those of you at home that don't know what WGA means, I just realized, Writers Guild of America. Or did you say that already?
I'm pretty sure I said it.
I'm sorry. Pat and I also ate a weed gummy before we started here.
Well, it hasn't kicked in. That was maybe 5 minutes ago.
Mine's starting to tingle a little bit. They hit me fast and hard.
All right.
Like my ex-husband.
Oh.
But wait, hold on. But why'd you have to get up at 6? What did it start at 7?
It started at 8, But I'm not getting a lot of sleep, folks. I got a lot riding on me. I got the budget of my pilot, and then you start to think like that much money is riding on me, and it's a lot. It's a lot of pressure.
I will say, people, every time I see Walsh here, my friend and yours, the zipper of the track jacket's a little lower. The buttons are a little lower on the shirt. He's showing more and more chest. I mean, he is transforming into one of these. It's only a matter of time before he's got a gold medallion nestled in that hair, and he's
sitting in a sauna with a couple of agents.
Yeah, and just has one of those phones with the big antenna for no reason. This wireless, like it's a tough life, dude.
Well, now last night I stood on a hotel balcony and I went, "Who am I?"
As you looked at the glimmering lights of Hollywood.
The glimmering lights of Hollywood that were starting to fade a little for me because of all the things that I've seen. And then I did a line off some, naked 14-year-old girl. But that was my Friday, and I don't need to bring you into that.
Walsh, I had a very different day than you had today.
What did you do?
Well, I got a haircut this morning.
I'm going tomorrow morning.
I got up, I walked my dog for about an hour, which was nice. He was being a real shit. But whatever, we had a nice walk. And then I went and got a haircut.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got a pair of Doc Martens that I've been looking for. I finally found them. Very exciting.
And folks, since the last podcast, Joe has come out as a proud lesbian woman. And frankly, he doesn't need your judgment. He doesn't need it. It's 2017, you know?
Yeah, it is. Get with it. So, yeah, I got some Doc Martens, which I was excited about. Then I went to, you ready for this?
Sure.
3 record stores to find the new Spoon vinyl. No, but not only did none of them have it.
Sold out or didn't have it?
They were all like, well, what is it? And I was like, Spoon, the new Spoon. When did it come out?
What?
Yesterday.
Did you go to Amoeba?
No, because I wasn't on that side of town. So that's
but still, I mean, Spoon isn't even alternative anymore. They're almost a pop band.
Yeah, I was getting the feeling that they were saying, take you and your mainstream bullshit and get out of here. But
I listened to it in its entirety yesterday, and I really liked it. It's not as instantly catchy as every other album they've ever had, but I liked it.
It's a great album. It's impressive. And I just was at South by Southwest, and on my plane ride down there on Saturday, who did I see 5 rows up from me in an aisle seat but one Britt Daniel.
Hello.
Guy's still in coach in the aisle seats. Didn't even have a window.
Look, I don't usually have names to drop, but about 5 years ago, me and my dear friend Ian Friedman went to the Matador Records 20th anniversary show at the Palms Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada. Pavement. This was before they were like fully reunited. It was like their first show.
Yeah.
Tom Sharpling of The Best Show hosted, one of my favorite comedy people of all time.
It's amazing.
It was Yola Tango. It was Pavement. It was Spoon. It was like all your favorites. It was an amazing show. Guided by Voices. A very drunk Guided by Voices.
Cat Power.
Cat Power performed. Yes, that's correct. And I was gambling, playing a little blackjack, and I saw Britt Daniels walk by with a girlfriend, folks, and I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say she was of age. But holy cow, did she look young. And you know what, Britt? More power to you if that's what you like, and as long as she, passes muster at the old law office. Good on you.
Muster? I never heard that term. What's that mean?
It's an old hillbilly term. Passes muster means like good enough.
Oh, okay. All right.
But yeah, I mean, she looked like 4, and they were pretty hot and heavy. It was very uncomfortable. I'm sure she was of age. He's a public figure. He wouldn't go out with a 4-year-old, but still.
That would explain that track 7 on the new album that's just called "If There's Grass on the Field," which
parentheses play ball. Joe, what is your favorite Spoon song?
Well, song I go back and forth. My favorite Spoon album is "Gimme Fiction."
Oh, it's a fantastic.
I think
album.
that's really their peak.
That Beast and Dragon Adored, when that song kicks in, I'm just like, which one of y'all bitches wants to fuck?
Yeah, that's it.
You know?
That one gets me in the heart. Maybe Lines
and the
in
answer
the Suit.
is None of us, but thanks.
Lines in the Suit maybe is probably my favorite, or My First Time Volume 3 is one I like quite a bit, which is a single that wasn't on any album.
Sure.
I really love Jonathan Fisk.
Jonathan Fisk is probably mine.
It's a great song.
And my other and one of the most I used to wake up to it every morning, and it powered me through like a rough year of my life, is Got Nothing.
That's a great one.
Got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
But darkness and shadows.
Yeah, that's a great one, too.
Great song.
Well, he was on my plane, and I was down at the South by Southwest Festival, did a bunch of shows.
Okay. How'd they go?
They all went very well. I had a really nice time. Did my friend Jay Okerson's show, What's Your Fucking Deal, which is his CISO show. We did a live version. We had an absolute blast. Eddie Pepitone.
Can I do a quick pause?
Yeah.
Hey, Pepitone, I would say, has made me laugh harder than anyone else in the world.
Well,
I really do believe that.
This is the one South by story I will tell you then.
All right.
And I'm not going to take up too much time. But, so What's Your Fucking Deal is an all crowd work show. You have to come out and do crowd work. So it's Jay's the host. I'm doing the crowd mic, which means I'm in the audience the whole time with a microphone. Sean Patton comes out, kills. Mike Lawrence comes out, kills. Bonnie McFarlane comes out, kills. Eddie Pepitone comes out, kills. And he opens with, these other comics, this shit they do. Where do you work? Where do you live? It's bullshit. I want to know your dreams, right?
Uh-huh.
So he starts screaming at the audience to tell you their dreams.
Yeah.
So then he goes, Miss, what's your dream? I bring the mic over to the lady. She goes, I want to be a veterinarian. He goes, no, God damn it. I don't mean your fucking goals. What did you dream last night, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we start doing this thing with audience members where they're going to tell him what they dreamt or a reoccurring dream they have, and he's going to interpret it as, quote, as he put it, the worst therapist of all time.
All right.
End quote. So he'd call on somebody. I'd go over to them, give them the mic. They would go, I have this reoccurring dream where I'm trapped in my basement. I see my dad through the cellar window. I can't get to him. I need to get to him. I don't know why. And all of a sudden they're putting him in a body bag. What does that mean? And then Eddie would go, that's a great dream. Okay. You know what I think it means? And first of all, let me say this. You're an ugly piece of shit. But the dream, it means your father never loved you. You know,
Yeah.
And he would do that over and over. That's a great dream. Before I interpret it, let me say this. I hope a cinder block kills your entire fucking family. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful dream. Everybody was like crying, laughing. It was one of the funniest things I ever saw.
I am I'm a difficult, hard laugh. It like almost never happens. Like a true like tears in my eyes laughing. But I have a couple times a year where I'm on another plane laughing, and all of those times have involved Eddie Pepitone. When I was in London, I went to London by myself for a full week, and I was having fun. But I went into a casino and I had like nothing to drink, and they threw me out for being drunk. Like, they wouldn't let me in. They were like, you're too drunk, love. You're too drunk, mate.
Love.
I was like...
That's tough.
It was real condescending, and I was like, no, I haven't had anything to drink. I just saw a play. I'm completely sober. And they're like, love, brother, mate, you're drunk. You're knockered. You're slagged, mate.
That was their way of saying, get out of here, American, because some snatch shit's about to go down.
Yeah, and I was so infuriated because I love gambling, and I went out, and then to prove them wrong, I got real drunk.
Sure.
And I'm walking along, and this was only like 8 o'clock, and I see this giant marquee, and in London, of all places, Eddie Pepitone is treated like a god.
I love it.
Because every time I've seen him here, he's like the fourth guy on a bill in like the basement of a seafood shop or something. But he's got this giant marquee, his not necessarily commercial face.
Right.
And I'm like, holy shit. I go, how much are tickets for Eddie Pepitone? She's like, well, I got one near the back for $20. She's like, but otherwise it's sold out. I was like, give me that ticket. I went in. I had one of the best nights of my life. I mean, he came out and he was just talking shit on America. So, of course, it killed doubly hard in Britain.
Right.
But my Lord, I mean, I couldn't breathe for part of it.
He's a great guy. I saw
Yeah.
him. We were in the same hotel, and I saw him. I was with Bonnie McFarlane, who's a dear friend and hilarious. And we both saw him right before he was leaving. He was leaving a day before we had to leave. And he just kept saying over and over. We saw him in the lobby, and he just kept going, I'm going to take a dip before I leave. That's a nice pool. You guys getting coffee? I'm not going to go. I'm going to stay here and take a quick dip.
Did he know he was being funny, or was he
Yeah.
just being himself?
Yeah, he wasn't. He was.
Oh, okay.
He had this
Okay.
shit-eating grin as he kept saying it.
Yeah.
It was the oddest joke, but it was very funny.
And I gotta
great
say,
man.
I just wrapped up 6 years on Two Broke Girls. It's why I have a house. You know, it was a wild, fun ride. Think what you will about the show. Eddie Pepitone played 2 roles on that show. One was a hoarder, and
Right.
his mom was like buried somewhere in his house. And his commitment to this performance, you couldn't see him, you could just hear him. But like, even though the audience didn't necessarily love it, it wasn't necessarily a network sensibility. But man, you could throw him any line, and he delivered it with such like gusto and passion. And I mean, his whole act is shitting on things like Two Broke Girls.
Yeah.
But my God, was he funny and sold it. And we brought him back as a underground in the subway suit salesman.
Sure.
He was selling this is a mustard color, like, all different kind of like Steve Harvey style suits that he was selling
Sure.
under the subway. And my God, was he funny all over again. Like, he's a man who gives it his all every time. If he comes to your town, go see him do stand up.
He's the best.
And I've never met him. We're not getting paid for this. If you like comedy, check him out.
I'm going to give you 4 plugs right now for people you need to see if you haven't seen them.
Do
Eddie
it.
Pepitone,
Yeah.
Todd Glass,
Sure.
Keith Robinson, and Andy Kindler. Do not waste your
Oh,
time. And
Kindler's a
Bonnie
killer.
McFarlane. That's 5. Go see those people if you've never seen them. You're really missing out. These are wonderful, wonderful comedians, and they're some of the best out there.
I will say you can catch Todd Glass on a night where he smokes too much weed. I've done that a couple times, but
It's still fun, though.
But when he's on, I love him. And Andy Kindler has one of my favorite jokes of all time. It's a little inside baseball, but it's hey, do any of you subscribe to a Variety magazine? Y'all get this magazine, Variety, or as I call it, everyone you came up with doing better than you. Details inside.
He sent me one of the best insults I've ever received on Twitter.
Yeah.
He
I
wrote,
like when you guys interact on Twitter.
Yeah, he wrote, hey, Joe DeRosa, listening to your WTF episode, does anything have to be funny with you? It's good. Just a fantastic burn. All right, let's get to Pat's
Let's
movie
focus.
rundown.
Folks, I wish I had parceled it out a little bit more, because I used to rattle off 10 movies, and I haven't seen, in a full week, I have not seen one movie, one television show, listened to one podcast, done anything that would contribute to this column in any sort of meaningful way.
When you walked in, didn't you tell me you just saw something? Wait, didn't you? Oh, the
Kong.
Room. Well, Kong for tonight. You didn't watch The Room. You just said you just got the DVD or something?
Yeah, I rented The Room because I've never seen it. And
Bad.
I always thought I was waiting for the opportune midnight movie screening, and it never came. When I first moved to L.A., you couldn't get into them. It would be like Paul Rudd waiting in line, and you couldn't get in, and I just never saw it. But now it's at my house, and I can't wait to watch it.
A friend of mine, a dear friend of mine named Ann Harris, went to college with Justin Long, and I do not know Justin Long, but I went to see The Room with Ann,
Yes.
and a midnight thing in New York, and she said, my friend Justin Long, who you might be familiar with, and I said, I'm a big fan. I Drag You to Hell and all these other things.
And Tusk, Joe.
And
you can say
Tusk
it.
wasn't out yet.
All right.
Tusk was not out yet.
I just like to occasionally, so you know who to side with, remind you that Joe's favorite movie of its year was Tusk.
I did try to get through Blimpy. What the fuck was that called?
Oh, Yoga Hosers?
I couldn't get through it. I mean,
didn't see that. See, I thought you were going to love Yoga Hosers.
It was rough stuff.
Was it strictly a comedy? It's Johnny Depp's daughter and Kevin Smith's
comedy,
daughter in a buddy
yeah.
movie?
It's a comedy, and it's rough stuff. But I did love Tusk. But anyway, I saw so he came, and we snuck 40s into the movie theater, and he was in need of alcohol. He didn't have any with him, so I shared a 40-ounce with Justin Long. And then I remember he said, he was like, oh, he was very excited because he had seen it many times.
Right.
And he was like, you've never seen it? Okay, dude, my favorite part. There's going to be this part where the guy has to move a dresser, and everybody's going to go, 1, 2, 3, cocksucker. I think that's what it was.
Okay.
Or 1, 2, 3, fuck it, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, this is in the 11th hour of the film that this part happened. So we're waiting the whole time. And then the part came up, and he's like, here it comes, here it comes, here it comes. And he yells it, 1, 2, 3, fuck it. And nobody else yelled it.
Ooh.
And he turned to me and he went, nobody did it. And he looked like very disappointed and sad.
Did he? But he did it.
He did it because he was like, and it was clearly a thing where he was like, this is usually a thing everybody does. But this time everybody didn't do it. And I felt bad for him, but he was a real nice guy.
I played poker with him once. He was a delightful gentleman.
Yeah.
My dad, when I was about 10 years old, was like, hey, up at the Dollar Show, where I had to see all my movies, like 6 months after they came out, we went to the Dollar Show.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was like, midnight, they're showing Rocky Horror Picture Show. When me and your mom were dating, this was the big thing, but we never went to see it. You and I should go.
That's an odd movie to see with your dad. At
So
midnight.
he takes me up midnight, and I'm like, I mean, I could not have been more excited just to even be out of the house at midnight. We went to White Castle.
Right.
My dad's favorite. And we went up there, and which reminds me, when my dad and I saw Wayne's World, also at the Dollar Show, keep in mind, there was nothing I wanted to see more, and I still had to wait 6 months to see it at the Dollar Show. And it starts, and when they're panning down the Chicago landmarks, and when they pan to White Castle, my dad, who looking back now was like my age that I am now, which is very disturbing.
Sure.
When White Castle hit, my dad, who also looking back was probably wasted, even though he claimed to not be drinking at this time, he jumped to his feet, pumped his fists, and went, woo!
Oh.
Because that's how much he loved White Castle.
This story's getting dark.
And the entire theater cheered for my father.
Well, that's cool. There you go.
Yeah. But anyway.
Sort of the opposite of the Justin Long scenario.
We go to this Rocky Horror Picture Show, and the thing starts, and out on the stage comes a man who, tucked into a pair of see-through women's panties, is a pretty substantial cock, folded up and visible in see-through panties.
Now we're talking.
And my dad grips my arm so hard and lifted me up and out of my seat, and we left the theater.
And that was that.
And can I tell you, folks, he tried to get a refund at the Dollar Show.
I thought you were going to say he tried to hook up with you. He was all worked up.
No.
I'm sorry. It's a bad joke.
Casually mentioned my dad molested me at a screening. No, but I've never seen The Room. I always wanted that perfect midnight movie experience, and it never presented itself. So I'm going to just watch it at home by myself. I was hoping you and I could do it tonight, but you've already seen it.
I've already seen it. And
did it live up to its name?
Yeah, not by yourself it won't.
Yeah, it probably won't.
You're going to watch it, and you're going to go, this is absurd.
Sorry, I can't call Justin Long up, Joe.
I don't know why you got to take a shot at me. At least Justin Long let me stay and watch the movie. Didn't yank me out because some guy showed his wang.
Look, my dad was in the right for me to
happened
not
to
see a grown man's cock at age 10.
You were old enough. You needed to learn.
Maybe.
No, look, here's the problem with something like The Room these days. There are so many bad, exploitation movies of all genres, and bad YouTube videos and bad fail videos and all these things that are completely accessible online. You're going to watch it and you're going to go, yeah, this is like a terrible movie that a crazy guy made. When I saw it, it was before you could access all that stuff so easily.
Yeah.
So when you saw it, it was like, how the fuck did this get done?
Right.
Now, the schmuck that lives, next door to you or whatever could make that on his iPhone, and you'd be like, oh yeah, it sucks. Of course it does.
Yeah, I mean, the older I get, like when I was a kid, or even like in my teens or college, we would rent like a bad movie and watch it and like laugh hysterically and shit. But in this day and age, so much of what is out there is so bad, it's hard to really feel anything. And that's really the problem with the world in general. You don't feel anything about anything, and everything kind of blurs in at sort of a hazy gray, neither black nor white. And the world keeps pushing in on you until you want to scream.
Walsh, you're coming in heavy tonight, man. Jesus God
Am
almighty.
I wrong, folks?
I know you're at a seminar all day,
No.
for how to cut 10% of your budget down or whatever the hell that fucking thing was. But
Look, I got to tell you, and I'm not going to get into it. I think a big part of it is waking up in the morning and just reading the news in a way I never did before.
it's horrible.
It's the saddest time, certainly of my life, and perhaps, I mean, obviously, it's not comparing with the Holocaust or something, but if you're looking at the history of the world, a history of America, I can't imagine it's been that much worse than this. And everyone is feeling very uninspired and very miserable, and it bleeds into your life, whether you want it to or not.
It sucks right now. This is just our shitty time. It's been much worse than this. The slaughtering of the Indians.
Of course.
Slavery,
Holocaust. Yeah, these are all.
Yeah.
Look, folks.
Go back to medieval times. You got people dying because they got a limp. They had to be put down. This time sucks, but
Yeah,
we're not dealing with scurvy at least.
I think that this presidency is harder on those who are bullied, like myself, because it's showing you that when I moved out to L.A., I was like, wow, these like nerds and dorks all have like beautiful, wonderful wives and girlfriends, and like they're successful and they're happy and they're making the things they want to make. And this is kind of like just a big swing in the other direction, where like just being a douchebag asshole can make you the most powerful man in the world.
Right.
And it's hard. I got to admit, it's hard every day that this man is in power. But we're not a political podcast.
Well, but Pat, I've said it a million times. It's hard out here for a pimp.
It is. It is. And that was a high point in America when that song won Best Song at the Academy Awards.
I remember seeing Anthony Anderson, who has been very nice to me over the years as I've met him, and we've done some stand-up shows together. But I remember seeing him in a talk show. It was on Jimmy Kimmel, and he said when that was nominated and he was in the movie, he said, Jimmy, watch this, man. Watch. I'm gonna sing the song from Hustle and Flow, and everybody's gonna sing it with me. Don't nobody know the music from, and he named like 2 other movies that year.
Right.
And then the third one he goes, don't nobody know the music from Star Wars. It's like, no, Anthony, everybody knows the music from Star Wars.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, let's get to our movie of the week.
I thought you were going to side with Anthony Anderson, but you just kind of threw him under the bus.
No, I didn't. I very nice guy.
Our movie of the week, folks, is Kong, Skull Island, which at the very least was better than a movie I saw a couple years ago called Kong, Skull, Island. Where Kong's skull went to an island populated by gaping colons. Folks.
Yeah, that was a tough one. Now, I saw something also a few years ago called Kong Skull Community, and it was just a gated community that Kong was living in. It was not very good.
Look, I didn't hate that one so much.
Now, this is a first. Let me say this. This is a first for our podcast. I have no idea what Pat Walsh's opinion on this film is, and I don't want you to tell me yet.
All right.
We did not discuss this at all. I texted him my thoughts while I was sitting in the movie. But I do not know Pat Walsh's thoughts yet. I'm excited to hear them. Let's give the synopsis, and then we'll get into the discussion.
Well, you give the synopsis, Joe. Go ahead.
Look, it's a Kong movie in the sense that King Kong is in it. It is not a traditional Kong movie in the sense that it does not feature him falling in love with a tiny blonde woman for no apparent reason and then scaling a building to protect her as military planes are shooting him incessantly. This movie is a straight-up monster movie. John Goodman plays the sort of, and I can't remember the guy's name in the original, but it's the guy Jack Black played in the
right.
in the Peter Jackson remake. He plays sort of that role, but he doesn't want to go out there for the sake of his own movie or glory. He wants to go out there to prove that monsters exist, and this is a threat. In the same way that George W. Bush possibly was, saying we need to go into the Middle East to find the weapons of mass destruction. It's that same kind of motivation. And they go to the island, and it's a ragtag bunch of people. It's John Goodman and his associate, who the actor's name is escaping me, but he's played by the guy that plays Dr. Dre in Straight Outta Compton. There's some military people there, one of them being the guy that played Eazy-E in Straight Outta Compton. Samuel L. Jackson is the military leader. Tom Hiddleston is a tracker who's going to kind of show them the ropes of surviving the wilderness. Who is ready for anything they might face, except, of course, the surprise of a giant monkey. And
Brie Larson,
and Brie
also
Larson
in the
is
mix.
there as a war photographer. Yes.
Yes, and Corey Hawkins is the guy who played Dr. Dre.
Yeah.
So I gotta say, I don't
that's
know
basically the whole movie. I mean, they don't
Yeah.
leave the island. They get there, and it's monster shit, and that's it.
I don't know that I've ever seen a more stacked cast in service of something this stupid. And there's my opinion. But I mean, when John Goodman and his partner go to like get the grant to go and explore for Kong or whatever, and like maybe they'll find the cure for cancer or whatever, their boss who comes out and says 2 lines is Richard Jenkins.
Yes.
One of
Oscar
my favorite
nominee.
actors of all time.
Oscar nominee.
An Oscar nominee not long ago. And he comes out and he's like, you guys really want to wind me up? Like, he has nothing to do.
Yeah.
And Goodman is kind of in it. He disappears for a full hour.
Lot of storylines going on in this movie.
Samuel L. Jackson comes in and, like, is delivering these one-liners that, like, were trying to get cheers, but they were so fucking stupid. Like, at one point he's like, I'm about to show Kong that man is the true ruler.
No, King.
King.
Come on.
Yeah, obviously that makes more sense. But I'm like, am I supposed to cheer for man? Is that what I'm supposed to do now?
It's a real, and listen, I have a certain hesitation about saying this because 2 weeks ago I did Doug Loves Movies with friend Doug Benson, and I had a great time. And one of the guests on it was Jordan, what's his name, who directed the movie.
Now, clearly he must have some ties to comedy because everyone I know in comedy posted that they were at the Kong premiere and loved it.
Now, I never knew Jordan until that night. He was
Yeah.
a nice guy. He was excited about the movie. I don't want to be one of those people that is nice to somebody and then says bad things. So I'm not saying anything bad about
Well,
Jordan.
you couldn't say anything bad about the movie visually.
No, visually he did a great job.
I mean, I don't think he wrote the fucking script. That was the issue.
But God damn it, the movie stunk. It was a lot of. Now, guys, this is going to be loaded with spoilers. So
not real. What are you really spoiling with Kong Skull Island?
well, probably not. But
it's
I'm just,
animals fighting each other.
I'm going to speak freely about everything I hated about this movie.
All right.
Let's start with the opening line. Let's start with the opening line.
Go on.
The opening line, a cab pulls up after the credit sequence. A cab pulls up in front of one of those domed buildings in Washington.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I know what you're gonna say.
And it kind of pushes in on John Goodman, who's the passenger in the cab, and he just goes, "There will never be a crazier time in Washington." Right there. You're like, okay, that's terrible. That's terrible.
Yeah.
It's so on the goddamn nose. And look, and you know I'm a defender of the prequels, but it's like the part in Revenge of the Sith where he gets elected, where Palpatine gets elected emperor, and everybody cheers, and Natalie Portman goes, "So this is how freedom dies," with thunderous applause. Like, at the tail end of the Bush administration.
Yeah.
Don't be, come on, man. That's trite. It's too on the goddamn nose. Stop it. So that line right there, I was like, we might be in trouble, but Jordan did a lot of really nice visual stuff, so I was hanging in there. I was fingers crossed. I was hoping it was going to be cool.
Almost every scene kind of reinvents itself in a very cool, new visual way that you definitely don't see in your average blockbuster. He did this indie movie called The Kings of Summer that was pretty fun, and to give him the reins of this thing is kind of crazy, but he did do a really good job with just a terrible fucking script.
Now, here's another problem I had with the movie.
Go on.
Every scene, folks, I'm talking every scene starts with not just a 60s classic rock song, but the most cliche. So
I will say, you know who did that first and did it worst is your favorite film, Suicide Squad. That movie, every time they introduced a character, oh, this character looks like the devil. Let's play Sympathy for the Devil.
And it's bad. I know.
It was embarrassing.
I know. It's bad.
But this did pretty much the exact same thing.
They took it even further in this.
They didn't take it further, but they did the same thing.
Well, they do take it further. Here's why. Because in Suicide Squad, they just do it for the first half hour to introduce characters. In this, they did it through the whole goddamn movie.
Yeah.
And by the time you're at like hour 40 and whatever Through the Jungle by Creedence comes on. Like,
Run Through
folks,
the Jungle.
Can I just tell you something right now? Movie makers of the world, never put a Creedence song in a movie ever again. It's done. Creedence is great. They're a wonderful band. I love listening to them. Never put a Creedence song in a movie ever again.
Now let me throw this at you. When I heard Run Through the Jungle, I'm like, you don't get to do that because that's the Big Lebowski song.
And it's also the Dusk Till Dawn song.
I mean, whenever I see that in a movie, when they're like, oh, now we're going to use, okay, so like, I know you haven't seen the end of The Sopranos, but they close with Don't Stop Believing. It has been used 1,000 times since, but the power of it that first time almost blew me away. So then when you see it used in like Glee and et cetera, it's like everyone associates it with this one thing. Why not have your own new moment?
Well,
that's what I've never understood.
I do have a theory. It's not even really a theory. It's probably valid. I would think that there's probably a licensing thing, and a studio says, here are the songs that you can use that aren't going to cost us an arm and a fucking leg. And I'm assuming Creedence Run Through the Jungle is one of them.
I don't think it's cheaper than most. I think they are trying to recapture.
Well, it's also in a jungle, the movie, which is
they're trying to recapture the feeling that previous not only is the song being used for nostalgia, but it's using nostalgia for another movie that it was used in.
By the way, Run Through the Jungle is not in Fear and Loathing.
I didn't think so.
It's in Dusk Till Dawn.
It's in The Big Lebowski.
White Rabbit is in Fear and Loathing, which is also in this movie.
No, White Rabbit is in the game.
No, White Rabbit is also in Fear and Loathing when he's in the bathtub. I want you to
you just said it was in From Dusk Till Dawn.
No. I said I said Run Through the Jungle's in Dusk Till Dawn.
That may be true. Yes.
Creedence. It's the opening thing, like when they're driving in the car. In Fear and Loathing, it's White Rabbit, which is also in this movie, and
used, I would say, the best in the game with Michael Douglas.
I don't remember where it is in the game. Movie. I just remember in that bathtub scene.
It's in when he's got like his room is black lit with all these like people fucking with him.
But here's the thing. Now here's what bothered me a bit more than just the cliche usage of music to set a tone or send a certain message because the lyrics sort of correlate with the movie. What bothered me more than that was it's not that kind of movie.
No.
One of the great uses of music ever in a film, and the song's escaping me at the moment, I apologize, because the gummy is setting in at this point, is in Predator.
Yeah.
They're playing that 50s song on the plane. I can't remember what it is right now.
I don't either.
But they're playing, that's the only time in that movie you hear that song.
Right.
And it adds such a weird, interesting energy to that sequence. And they're all on the plane in that great, like, red lighting. And Jesse Ventura is insulting everybody, and he spits.
You mean Jesse the body?
The body
Ventura?
The body Ventura. I'm sorry.
I got a lot of favorite.
I
Jesse
didn't want to
Ventura.
get. Sorry to confuse you.
Okay.
But it's when he spits the tobacco on the guy's shoe.
Right.
Shane Black is in that scene, who's directing the new Predator. But it's such a good use of the movie. It's like in Evil Dead 1, how the closing credits to the movie are this old 50s song.
Yeah.
But there's none of that in the rest of the movie. When you use it sparingly in a film like that, it's so great. In this film, it's like, this isn't Forrest Gump. This isn't a movie about the times. It's a movie about monsters in a fucking jungle. Stop playing these like psychedelic hits every 3 minutes. It doesn't make sense to me.
Well, usually if you're using them that desperately, i.e., Suicide Squad, it's because you're like the script doesn't work. We're getting real desperate. We got to like try to make you think that you're having fun here. But to me, the most egregious use of music in this was when Kong first arrives and we hear, "Let me see that Kong." That Kong, 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 right?
You're an asshole.
I mean, and to bring Will Smith out of retirement to perform it.
Will Smith, number one, isn't in retirement. Number two, didn't sing the thong song. Cisco.
I know Cisco sang the thong song / the Kong song. I was trying to subtly dig at Will Smith, who might as well be in retirement because every movie he makes these days sucks.
I like Will Smith, and I
think he'll come back, but it's going to be a ways away.
I thought it was a good dead shot.
Folks, they didn't do that Kong, 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 and King Kong. But I would have respected it more if they had. The comedy attempts in this film, when John C. Reilly shows up, and I love John C. Reilly, and there's another man I played poker with. He's a delightful fucking man.
He was enjoyable, but it went a little too far in places.
He's doing, it's like Step Brothers deleted scenes in the middle of Kong.
Yeah, I know.
And somebody, I've never seen King Kong. I don't know what you thought of the Peter Jackson King Kong.
I liked it.
I thought it was okay, but the monsters were way cooler, and that was 15 years ago.
This CGI wise looked no better. I'd say even it looked a bit worse.
Nothing had advanced.
And somebody said to me, we were talking about the movie, and they said, "Well, John C. Reilly was really the centerpiece of the film, whereas."
To give them the post-credit sequence.
Whereas Kong should have been, and that's what I said. I go, "Oh, you didn't think the King Kong movie would end with John C. Reilly eating a hot dog?" I mean, this is the last shot of the movie.
It is.
And he was enjoyable.
Well, Kong, Kong looked like he was maybe 10 feet taller than me in this movie. He wasn't scary. He wasn't funny. He wasn't interesting. I've never seen a King Kong presented in a more boring fashion. Every other monster, and they weren't great. One was just like an ugly bird, was like another monster.
I want to talk about the monsters, but go ahead.
They were all sort of more interesting than King Kong, and they weren't even great. They all were just kind of boring, generic. I mean, I fell asleep at one point during Kong.
I will tell you this.
Skull Island.
I almost walked out. I didn't, but I stayed for the sake of the podcast because I really got a talking to by Pat when I walked out of Medea's Boo Halloween, whatever the fuck it was called. But
Boo, Medea, a Skull Island Halloween Christmas.
But I will tell you this. The monsters, this was a great... Now, I saw this movie with our dear friend Karen Kilgariff of My Favorite Murder fame.
Here in Los Angeles?
Yes.
Well, I'll tell you this. If you two ever do something like that and don't invite me again...
You were working. We went to an early afternoon film on a weekday.
All right. I'm having lunch with Karen on Tuesday.
But we had a nice time and we had a lot of fun. But I said to her...
Did she enjoy it?
She actually gave it a little more slack than I gave it. She was like, I enjoyed the visuals. She's like, it was fun watching like the crazy sequences and stuff. But she did say something really funny, and then I'll tell you the monster thing. That sequence where they're in like that smoky field and like the ground keeps lighting on fire.
Yeah.
I turned to her and I go, did I miss something? Why does the ground keep catching on fire? And very deadpan, she just goes, it's just a bad place. It's just not a good place to be.
Yeah, she's right.
So, but, you know, it's, but what bothered me, I said to her after the film, I go, they did the Jim Henson trick too many times. She goes, what do you mean? I go, too many times it was like somebody was like sitting on like a log, and then all of a sudden it would turn into a monster.
Yeah.
It was like, look at the wonderment of this place.
It's
lot
like
of
camouflage.
It's just kind of dumb. Like, I don't care. It's too much. Like, I don't know. I just wasn't that interested. And I will say this also when it comes to monsters. In a day and age, and by day and age I mean the last 30, 40 years, where we have Freddy Krueger, a burned-faced man with razor blade fingers who haunts you and murders you in your dreams.
Yeah.
Jason Voorhees, a zombie who has crawled out of the grave to avenge his death. Michael Myers, an unstoppable psychopathic serial killer. The Cenobites, demons from hell that you summon with a box that rip you apart with chains. monkey's just not that scary anymore.
No, I couldn't agree more.
It's just not that scary anymore.
And it's like, if you're going to do this again and you're going to reboot it like twice in my lifetime, you got to give him a little more personality than we saw here. And you know who did it better twice is Planet of the Apes and Beyond or whatever, the remakes. Both of those found really cool, new, interesting ways to bring monkeys to us as a threat. This was just kind of not there. And the cast, folks, when I saw the credits roll and Tom Hiddleston was in that lead, Tom Hiddleston was the lead of this fucking movie. Have you ever seen a lead of a movie make less of an impression than Tom Hiddleston in this movie?
No, he was, and I even said, I was saying the other night, the way they bring him in, they introduce Tom Hiddleston into the story as like this mercenary type guy.
Yeah.
They find him. I mean, how cliche is this? They find him, in a pool room in Bangkok, and he gets into a scuffle with some surly bar members and like throws darts at them, and it's like such a typical like rip off of Raiders of the Lost Ark,
right?
But he comes in and he's like, let me tell you what will kill you. The murder, the gnats, the ants. And he's like, and he goes, and that's just the shit you can see. And you're like, this guy's an asshole. This guy's going to be a problem.
Caine.
Huh?
It wasn't Michael Caine, Joe.
I know.
Just said Michael Caine, so perhaps my gummy is kicking in as well. Michael Caine.
My point is he comes in real hot, and then 10 minutes into it, he's like, Brie Larson, I've got to save you. And it just loses. By the way,
now I will. I'm not a creep, folks. Brie Larson in this movie, girl, you're looking good.
Hey, I'll tell you this.
I love Brie Larson. She's a strong actress, and she's bringing a lot to the table, boner-wise.
I will tell you this, folks. She looked great. Every time she came on screen, there were some monsters on Skull Island in my pants, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's hot. But there were too many sequences where, I was saying this also to a friend, like there would be like these montages of them having to do hard work to like get them out of this situation. And it would cut to Brie Larson like cranking something, and she would just go, and it looked fake. It looked ridiculous. It was...
Yeah, I mean, the whole cast, and again, I talked about this when we talked about Doctor Strange. So when I drive home from Burbank at the end of the day, they always do a new giant billboard. And that's a big movie, whatever buys this giant spot for the billboard in Los Angeles. There's another spot like that on Sunset where, like, that's the movie that's going to be huge if they buy this spot. And when I saw the Doctor Strange billboard and it said Benedict Cumberbatch, Tilda Swinton, Victor Hong, all above the line, I was like, wait a minute. What's going on here?
Right.
This time out, when I'm seeing John Goodman, Samuel L. Jackson, Brie Larson, what's the gentleman's name? John Ortiz. Mm-hmm. John Ortiz, and look, I'm all for diversity in movies and television. John Ortiz is a fantastic actor. I love John Ortiz. John Ortiz has perhaps 3 lines in this movie, and he is given an above-the-line credit. And when you're able to be on the other side of that gross Hollywood line and see that they are simply putting John Ortiz above the line so that they can attract the Hispanic community, John Ortiz doesn't say anything in the movie. He has maybe 3 lines. It's disgusting.
I turned to Karen. I know who you're talking about. I turned to Karen.
He's above the line.
20 minutes in the movie, I turned to Karen, and dead serious, I said, is that Fred Armisen? I thought it was Fred Armisen.
Yeah.
Who's also, that is...
He's one of many great actors in this movie.
Is that a Spanish name for Armisen?
Armisen, I'm sure, is at least somewhat Hispanic.
So they could have had Fred Armisen in there.
I love John Ortiz. I really do. I'm just like, when you're going to start throwing him up there with all your giant names and giving him absolutely nothing to do, it just smacks of that disgusting Hollywood quality of like, we got diversity, huh? but
Yeah.
you're doing it for the absolute wrong reasons. You're simply inserting a Hispanic person into the movie, giving him nothing of interest to do, and then exploiting his name to try to bring in the large Hispanic population of Los Angeles by putting him above the line. So if there are Hispanic John Ortiz fans, and I guarantee there are, who go to see this movie and see someone of their people represented as a hero, they instead get to see a guy who's like doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I agree.
It's disgusting.
I agree.
You're trying to use the person. It's gross.
So overall, Kong Skull Island sucked.
It sucked, folks. I mean,
the one part that was cool, I will say this.
Go ahead.
I just did an interview thing where they said, "What's the last movie you saw in the theater?" I said, "Kong Skull Island." And I said, "But I won't tell you my favorite part because it's a spoiler. But I'll tell it now." My favorite part in the movie, the part that did actually get me excited, was at the end, the credit scene when they come in and they say Kong is just the beginning, and they show the slides of Godzilla and Mothra and all that stuff.
Wait, is that after the credits?
Yeah, it was at the very end.
Oh, I left during John C. Reilly eating a hot dog.
No,
For 10 minutes.
the post-credit scene is Tom Hiddleston and...
so they're going to keep doing this.
Well, they're building towards Kong versus Godzilla. So it's Tom Hiddleston and Brie Larson in a interrogation room with one of those two-way glass things. And he's yelling at the glass like, "You got to let us out of here. We won't talk. Skull Island didn't exist." And then all of a sudden, the Straight Outta Compton guy comes in, and he says, "Hey, haha, it's us that have you here." And he's like, "Oh, thank God. We thought it was the government or whatever." And then that guy goes, "Welcome to our such and such facility," that they kept referring to throughout the movie. And he goes, "I know you remember Skull Island, good, because that's just the beginning. Look at this." And they show this footage of, he rolls this black and white reel of film, and it shows these hieroglyphics in caves that were from the Godzilla remake of Godzilla, Mothra, something else.
They showed clips from the Cranston Godzilla.
Yeah.
Not the Broderick Godzilla.
So they're building up to... So the next movie is Godzilla...
Is that Godzilla part of this movie's universe?
Yes.
Because that Godzilla sucked dick, too.
No, that was bad. And that guy directed Rogue One, which I thought he did a fantastic job
He did.
with. So again, not the director, the script, I think. But
yeah, no, Godzilla. I fell asleep during both of these movies, and that never happens.
The next movie is, I think, Godzilla, King of All Monsters, where it's going to be Godzilla versus Mothra, and I'm forgetting the names
But do
of
you
the other
really
monsters.
care?
And then it'll be Kong and Godzilla.
Like, if you don't care about humans fighting these monsters, do you really care about the monsters fighting each other?
I do like Godzilla.
They can't speak.
I thought that Godzilla remake sucked. It didn't suck as bad as the Broderick one, but it sucked. But I do like Godzilla because to me Godzilla is a true monster. He is like a sort of a mutated lizard, whereas Kong, it's literally just a giant ape.
Yeah.
It walks on two legs. I don't give a shit. It doesn't look that different.
Neither of them can talk or do anything. Why would you want to watch them fight? What is the appeal? Who are you rooting for? That's what I don't understand. Unless you're 5, who gives a shit?
I know. Yeah, you're right. Speaking of, in closing, real quick recap. Do you think War for the Planet of the Apes is going to be good?
That's the third of the series?
Yeah, it's the new one with Woody Harrelson.
Look, I'm not going to say I'm excited about it. However, those last 2 movies I kind of went against my will and thought they were both excellent. So I see no reason to think the third one won't be good.
Didn't like Rise, loved Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. This new one,
Rise and Dawn were 1 and 2?
Dawn's the second one.
Okay, all right.
Excited for this one, although I think it's terrible in the trailer when Woody Harrelson goes, "And if we don't succeed, it will be a planet of apes." That's ridiculous.
Woo!
But we'll see. We'll see. Patty, what do you got? Any personal plugs?
You know what I would have had him say?
Yeah.
What do you want this to be? The United Apes of America?
Yeah. It sounds to me like you've gone bananas.
No, folks. I have nothing to plug. I'm barely awake. Again, I'm at the Patrick Walsh. Twitter, Instagram. I love you guys. I love the comments. We love them. We're on HeadGum now, which I forgot to mention at the beginning. And, thanks, guys. I mean, again, this week I got stopped. I got stopped right outside your door, which I forgot to mention to you, Joe, by a fan of the podcast. It's cool. I'm glad that we're catching on, and it means a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for your support. I'll be in Melbourne for the festival, the comedy festival in April for a few weeks. If you live in Australia, come out to that. Otherwise, here's all I'm plugging. Can you guys please go give my album? I have 5 albums up on iTunes. Can you give them, and Amazon, can you give them some 5-star reviews if you like them? Because the trolls have brought the ratings down so much over the years, and I'm trying to rectify that. If you could do that, I'd appreciate it. I love you. At Joe DeRosa Comedy on Twitter and Instagram. We'll be back next Monday with a new episode. I don't know what it'll be yet, but probably a classic. We've done 3
I think the next one is going to be the Neon Demon because, bizarrely, Joe and I very much agreed on both Get Out and Kong. Logan, we differed, but not to an extreme degree. Neon Demon, I fucking loved, and Joe fucking hated. So that will be our next choice. I also don't think there's another big movie on the horizon. So if you haven't seen it, it's free on Amazon Prime. And, that's going to be our next one. I think that one's going to get a little more heated than this one. Thank you, folks. We're on HeadGum. Keep those tweets coming. We have a Facebook page, We'll See You in Hell, that I checked in on today. It's fucking awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
That was a HeadGum podcast.